If the disc becomes separated, you can easily put it back together. Start by placing the bottom disc on an even surface with the stamped word bottom and directional arrow facing up. Then, place the chain on the top of the bottom disc with the tungsten carbide tips facing in the same direction as the arrow. If assembled in reverse, the disc will not cut efficiently and will appear blunt during operation by burning the hoof. Place the top disc over the chainsaw chain with the decal and the side stamped top facing up. Making minor adjustments will secure the chain between the two discs. Sharpening the chainsaw teeth is easy and works exactly like sharpening a regular chainsaw blade. Sharpening the teeth regularly will ensure you get a smooth and easy cut every time. Always make sure the grinder is turned off before connecting it to a power source. Always wear proper eye protection and heavy-duty gloves while trimming. Keep the safety guard on during operation and make sure the safety guard is positioned to fully protect your fingers. Operation of the tool without the use of safety guards is dangerous for you and the animal. You can adjust the safety guard per the instructions that came with your grinder. We recommend you use a disc or angle grinder equipped with a constant pressure switch, also known as a paddle, deadman, or kill switch, to help prevent accidents. We also recommend you regularly clean the grinder's on-off switch to remove hoof shavings and dust. Accumulated debris around and under the switch could clog the mechanism, making it hazardous during operation. Always make sure you're wearing proper safety equipment, including eye protection and heavy-duty gloves. Make sure the safety guard is positioned to fully protect your fingers and the auxiliary handle is firmly attached. Use both hands to operate the grinder by placing one hand on the auxiliary handle and your second hand on the body of the grinder. Never start the grinder when the discs are in direct contact with the hoof. Hold the disc at a 30 to 45 degree angle to the hoof and pull the disc lightly across the surface of the hoof toward you or from the inside axis to the outside of the hoof. Never push the disc from the front to the back and never make straight, vertical, or plunge cuts, as the teeth could catch the hoof and cause kickback or hurt the animal. Don't force the disc. Apply excessive pressure into the hoof or use a chopping motion to cut away hoof material. To trim around the toe, flip the grinder over and cut around the edge. As this type of cut exposes the blade to the user, we advise that you be cautious when operating the tool in this manner. Keep your hands away from the disc during operation. Do not reach underneath or attempt to remove material while the disc is rotating. Never put the grinder down until the disc has stopped turning completely. Do not try to ram the disc into wood or other material to stop it turning prematurely once the power switch has been turned off.
From horses to sheep, cows, goats, and more, proper hoof health is an important aspect of caring for an animal.
When people began to domesticate the animals, they also began to take them out of their natural habitat. In a natural habitat, the animals basically take care of their hooves just through natural wear and tear. If you have a beef cow that's on the range, they're able to wear that hoof down as they roam through the fields. But a dairy cow, on the other hand, is confined. Their feed is a highly enriched protein, so their hooves grow faster than normal. And because of the fact that they do not have the ability to wear it down, you have to trim that hoof. Cows and horses and sheep and goats, pigs, anything with a hoof that's confined has to have the hoof trimmed by man.
While extremely important to their overall health, hoof trimming can be a demanding and strenuous task.
A lot of people in the United States maintain their own horses. The problem with a horse owner that's trimming his own, it basically gets back to it's hard to keep the hand tools sharp, and it is extremely hard physically to make those cuts on that hoof. So unfortunately what happens is that an owner will sometimes delay trimming that hoof. Proper hoof care dictates that you should trim that horse's hoof every 6 weeks. But because it's so hard to do, people delay that. And when they delay that, then they really are subjecting that horse to problems with their hoof. The performance of the horse is declined. It leads to the hoof getting diseased. So what my tool does is it encourages the horse owner to trim more frequently because it's so much easier to do. Less material, less time, less effort, healthier horse.
DeWolf & Associates, creators of the electric hoof knife, have made the first and only power tool to be designed, manufactured, and successfully marketed to the hoof trimming industries around the world.
My tool, using a 4-tooth chainsaw blade, is still used exactly like a hand tool. The bonus to our tool is the fact that it cuts in any direction. With a hand tool, you basically can only cut in one direction, and that is a pulling motion towards you. With my tool, you can cut forwards, backwards, sideways. It just gives you a lot more cutting ability to do that. The electric hoof knife is a revolutionary tool. Our tool was designed with 4 elements in mind: the shape, the size, the weight, and the power. We had to design a tool that had the ability to remove material off of a hoof. And in some cases, that material is as hard as concrete. We had to be able to have a tool that was powerful enough that we could remove that material, but at the same time, it couldn't weigh more than 1 pound. If it weighed more than that, you couldn't effectively hold it for long periods of time to be able to use the tool. The shape of the tool has to fit your hand, and also the size of the tool. It's a real close quarter work, so you could not have tools that was real long.
Animals have their own, different, but somewhat similar needs when it comes to hoof trimming.
Every animal has different requirements because of the way the hoof is shaped. A cow's hoof it has 2 toes and it's flat. It's very easy to remove material off of that because there's really nothing that impedes you're moving that chainsaw disc across that. It's a flat surface. A horse, on the other hand, is an area where the hoof is in a U shape, just like you see a horseshoe, and in the middle of it, it's called a frog. Well, you have to work around that piece. You don't cut on the frog, so you're confined. You have to be very precise when you trim against that piece. You have to work the hoof wall on the outside, so there's a lot of different variables to that. So we can use the chainsaw blade. The chainsaw blade is the primary trimming disc that we have. We developed that for use in the dairy industry, and then we realized that what we had done was that we had developed a tool that could be used with the right attachment on any animal.
It's just a better job. A lot of horses that you have, you really can't get out what you need to with the hoof knife that you can get out with the electric hoof knife. The electric hoof knife, you can tape and you can cup them out 110% better than you can with a knife because of the hardness of the sole and the hardness of the shell. And you can do a better job. You can do a lot of things with this that you can't do the old way.
The hand tool that people use for the goat industry is a pair of shears, like you would use in a garden. And the problem with that is that it's very intense, very hard to use, to cut that hard material. Your hands hurt. I developed a blade that can be used to remove that material through abrasion. With the goats and sheep, one of the problems they have is by using a hand shear, they leave ridges between the bottom of the goat's hoof, which they call the pad, and where the hoof wall is at. When you use a pair of shears, you're not able to get it smooth right there at the point between the hoof material and the pad. That leaves areas that contaminants can get into, and that leads to foot rot. My tool, because it's an abrasive type removal, takes that down to where it's very smooth and doesn't leave any areas for that to happen. So we really do eliminate a lot of the hoof rot problems that the goat and the sheep people have.
The natural thing for any hoofed animal would be to be on rock or something that would keep their hooves trimmed to a normal length. And of course we don't have that with the clay and the sand here. So by us trimming them and keeping them at a normal, smooth, what their actual hoof should look like, it's much safer for them, and they won't develop any limps or any problems with their hips or their legs. I also will schedule trimming a little more often because it's so much easier. And there's a lot less stress on the goats. They're up there, we get them trimmed in minutes, and then they're down and off, and they haven't even finished their bowl of food, so they're happy.
On 6-month-old colts all the way up to 30-year-old horses, I've never quicked an animal with this tool. Now all horses are different, I understand that, but most horses, after you work this machine on them once or twice, they all agree with it. It ain't real loud, it's real smooth, there's no hand pressure, there's no hard working it. If you will just hold the machine there real lightly, the machine will do its own job.
You can rest the chainsaw blade on a hoof and it won't cut unless you put a little bit of pressure on it. So because of that, it is extremely controllable because the tool is not fighting the user. Once you've gotten to the point where you're using it quite often, then you get to a point where it's basically the only tool that you need.
It's probably the friendliest thing that I've found to use on a goat or on our cattle to treat abscesses and ulcers. On the heels of the feet on the goat, and where they're soft, it bulged up like a marshmallow, and we was just scared we was going to cut them, get too much of it. And with the electric hoof knife, you can go in and ease it off. It's almost like using a surgical tool. When you get to taking out the ulcer side around, you can go in and feather it out. You're not as likely to get too deep in there and get into the corium of the foot. You can clean the radius out a lot better around the foot. With an abscess, you can go in. When you have a honeycomb shell, you can go in and clean all of this out. It leaves a nice job. So we hadn't cut one with it, and that's helped us. We've trimmed some goats today at a show and carried them to the show ring with it. I've even started my 11-year-old daughter. She wanted to know, could she trim them? And I told her, yes, sir. They're your show goats, so you need to learn how. It's made it so much easier on us.
Because of the ease of use, the tool enables individuals suffering from joint and muscular ailments to trim hooves with ease and control, unlike ever before.
People with arthritic hands, lupus, and bad backs, it has really helped them because there's no strain on your body when you're using it. Their backs, I have people tell me all the time that their backs are not sore, their hands don't cramp anymore. For women, It has really been a changing experience for them because most women have not been able to use a manual hoof knife. They just don't have the strength to do it. And our tool is very easy, very comfortable for them to use. So I see it opening a new career for women in farriers and hoof trimming because with this tool they'll be able to do it themselves.
And people every day send us emails and write us letters and phone calls thanking us for coming up with this, for introducing this to the market, how it has absolutely changed their life as it concerns trimming. A lot of older people, like in their 60s, 70s, 80s, use this tool. They don't want to quit taking care of their animals. But physically, they've gotten to the point where they just can't do it with a hand tool. So this tool is a revelation of use. And the more that people understand the tool and the more people use the tool, it's going to continue to grow in use. That's what encourages me, is the fact that we've developed a tool that really is a tremendous asset for the animal. It really does promote better hoof health for the animal. But it also promotes the health of the end user, the people that are actually using that tool to accomplish that job.
For more information, please visit www.electrichoofknife.us or call 877-320-8203.